Here's a mistake that changed the world, and the worst part, the humans who made it never even knew it was happening. Around 30,000 years ago, a hunter-gatherer threw a bone over their shoulder. That's it. That's the mistake, because on the other side of the firelight, something was watching. For most of human history, wolves were the enemy. You were slow, you were loud, you smelled like food. To things that could run faster, see farther, and hunt in coordinated packs while you were still figuring out which direction the wind was blowing. Wolves didn't just outcompete humans, they haunted them. Stories about wolves as monsters stretch back to virtually every culture on Earth. That fear wasn't mythology, it was memory, and yet, today there are over 900 million dogs on Earth. They sleep in our beds, they detect cancer, navigate war zones, guide the blind, and wear birthday hats. And the animal that became all of that started as a predator your ancestors were terrified of. So what went wrong? The answer is that humans got sloppy. Hunter-gatherer camps weren't clean. They were moving piles of discarded calories, cracked bones, rotting skins, half-eaten meat. To a wolf, a human camp wasn't a threat. It was a restaurant. A few wolves, the less aggressive ones, the slightly more curious ones, crept closer. They didn't attack, they just waited and ate the scraps. The bold ones got fed, the aggressive ones got speared, the terrified ones starved at a distance. And here's where the mistake compounds. Humans probably didn't stop it. Maybe they tolerated the calmer wolves because they seemed less dangerous. Maybe they occasionally tossed them something on purpose. Either way, they were selecting for a new kind of wolf without realizing it. Every scrap thrown, every wolf not killed, every winter survived near a human camp. A slow, invisible vote was being cast, and humans were casting it without knowing. There was an election. Over generations, the wolves that survived near humans weren't random. They were the least aggressive, the most tolerant, the ones that could look at a human and feel something other than threat. Evolution did the rest. In 1959, a Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev decided to watch this happen in real time. He took wild foxes in Siberia and bred only the calmest ones, generation after generation. He didn't train them, didn't touch them, beyond testing their temperament. Just selected for one thing: tolerance of humans. Within decades, the foxes started wagging their tails, whining for attention, seeking eye contact. But then something stranger happened. Their bodies changed. Ears went floppy, snouts shortened, fur developed patches and spots, tails curled upward. Nobody programmed this. It came for free. When you breed out aggression, you apparently get a different animal entirely. Softer, rounder, more baby-like. Scientists call it the domestication syndrome, and it seems to be baked into mammal genetics, which means the first proto-dogs weren't created by some genius plan. They were wolves that looked slightly less like wolves, slightly less scary, slightly more adoptable, and humans, being humans, responded to that. Once both species started benefiting from the arrangement, things accelerated. Wolves could smell predators from distances humans never could. They reacted to threats before any human alarm system did. They could track prey that a human hunter would have lost. A wolf hanging around camp wasn't just tolerated, it was useful, maybe even necessary. The mistake had become a partnership, and partnerships change both sides. Dogs evolved to digest starch, a trait wolves don't have because their ancestors spent thousands of years eating human food scraps when humans invented farming and started eating more grain. Dogs quietly updated their biology to stay compatible with us. They were tracking our evolution and adapting to match it. And then something even harder to explain happened. When you stare into a dog's eyes, your brain releases oxytocin, the same bonding hormone that floods between a parent and a newborn child. Wolves don't do this. With humans, dogs do. Somewhere in those thousands of years, dogs evolved the ability to hack human attachment circuits. Those puppy dog eyes, that specific muscle that makes dogs look sad and expressive, doesn't exist in wolves. Dogs grew it. For us. Think about how alarming that is. An animal shaped itself over millennia to become emotionally irresistible to humans, and it worked so well that we started carrying them across continents, into wars, onto ships, and eventually into space. We thought we domesticated them. It's entirely possible. They domesticated us, and if you need proof that this went far beyond usefulness, archaeologists found it in Germany, a grave, 14,000 years old, a man, a woman, and a dog buried alongside them, carefully, deliberately, with intention. The dog had been severely ill as a puppy, parasites, the kind that kill, but it hadn't died, which means someone, an Ice Age human, burning every calorie to survive, had fed that dog, cared for it, kept it alive through weeks of illness. It couldn't explain, and the dog couldn't communicate. That is not a tool being maintained. That is grief in advance. That is love. All of it traces back to one careless moment, a bone thrown into the dark, a wolf that was slightly less afraid than the others, a human who didn't reach for the spear. The most consequential mistake in the history of our species. And tonight, the result of that mistake is probably going to fall asleep near you, twitching through a dream, chasing something across a landscape that no longer exists, carrying inside it the shadow of an Ice Age predator, and somehow, impossibly, choosing you anyway. This is Barksight, uncovering the science, behavior, and secrets behind the dogs we love. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, share it with another dog lover, and subscribe to Barksight for more fascinating discoveries about the canine world. And before you go, tell me something about your dog in the comments below. I read every comment. Until next time, keep exploring the world beyond the bark.